Hi everybody, I'm Lee Caraher. I'm the president of Double Forte, and I've created this series of videos. This is number 1 for the Public Relations Council's Agency Ready Certificate Program. Because I was on vacation when I was part of that webinar, and I lost my connection. So over 100 people have reached out and connected with me on LinkedIn. If you like to, I'm very happy to link in with you and ask me other questions. So I thought the most effective way for me to do that was just to create a few videos and then let you watch what you want to watch. So the first one is about the difference between big agencies and small agencies, and sort of what are the advantages of both. I've worked in both. Double Forte is a small agency. We are 24 people right now. We're headquartered in San Francisco. We have people all over the place. We have a presence also in New York. And but in my past, I've managed agencies when I had 13 offices and over 650 people, and been in both. And I can talk from both sides because there are definitely pros and cons to both sizes of agencies. So first question is there more client-facing opportunity at a large firm or a small firm? So at the entry level, so think about the first 3 or 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years of your career, there's definitely much more client-facing opportunities at a small firm than there are at a large firm. And it's for a lot of reasons. One, a small firm is not going to have very, very large accounts. In general, a firm is not going to have clients that are over $1 million or over, so $100,000 a month, basically. $100,000 a month team is very large and will be stacked. And it will have a lot of people probably in the entry level first 2 or 3 years of a career. So the people at the top of the totem pole will have much more access, because if you had all of your team on a call with the client, that is a very expensive meeting. And most agencies won't do that because they'll have to write most of that time off, and most clients don't want to see everybody all the time. Anyway, so you would have fewer opportunities for client-facing work in the first, 3 or 4 years of a career in a large firm. In a small firm, you're looking at clients, depending how small the firm is. Double Forte usually doesn't take clients under $15,000 a year, so $180,000 a year minimum in fee. That's a very different dynamic than $100,000 a month, right? So at Double Forte, our teams are a minimum of 3 people. That is not always true with small agencies. Sometimes you only have 1 person, sometimes you only have 2, but we always have at least 3 people. So it's a team, and people go on vacation and nothing falls through the cracks. But you'd have much more opportunity to be client-facing because the client has bought a team. The clients come to an agency, not a consultant, so they have the benefit of a team. They expect to see more faces than just the 1 person, and you would have more opportunity there for sure in terms of client-facing opportunity and on calls or in events or that kind of thing. It doesn't mean it's all bad or all good on either side. You might not be able to talk very much because you may not have your own responsibilities in a small firm for a very long time. At Double Forte, our goal is never to have a meeting, never to attend a meeting that we don't participate in. So what we do is before a meeting, we carve out spaces for everybody to participate in. So even our most junior staff have a place to be heard, a place to be seen. And sometimes it's very stressful for them until they get used to it. And our clients in general are very appreciative of that. And they are pretty gracious when people are nervous. But the bigger the team, the bigger the dollars, the less flexibility you're going to find in who gets to see the client when, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. In terms of, do larger firms have more diverse talent than smaller firms? Do they offer more diverse experiences? I think that depends on the firm. A large firm who has been concentrating on diverse experiences, meaning they have different types of clients and they allow teams to go across the client or the practice areas, then you might have many opportunities to go from practice areas to practice areas. In general, though, if you're on the health team, you're going to stay on the health team. If you are on the pharma team, you're going to be on the pharma team, because if you're on the tech team, you'll be on the tech team. And there's not a lot of crossover past a certain level because those teams are very specialized. So they would have more opportunities in theory. I think you'd want to make sure, if you were interested in doing that kind of stuff, you'd want to make sure or have examples of when someone went from team to team or was cross team. It can be very challenging to be on multiple industry teams at the same time in a large firm or a small firm because the work might be quite intensive and you'd have to understand a lot about each industry. So like bringing your brain from, wine to healthcare in a flash is challenging for the most experienced people. So, but in theory, a large firm is going to have many more practice areas and therefore more opportunities to cross over. I think if you talk about that with a large agency, you'd want to understand how you move from team to team and how people are sourced. On a small agency, some small agencies only do one thing. So they only do video games, or they only do wine, or they only do healthcare, or they only do hospitality, or. So the different kind of experiences might be on different accounts, but the work might be very similar and the industry is all the same. At Double Forte, we focus on consumer lifestyle, so food and bev, health and wellness, sports and fitness, and in food and bev, on our bev side, we have not only non-alcoholic, but we have wine and spirits as well. And our goal is to keep people in the agency as long as possible, so we do move people around. But the people who are on the wine team and the professional services team, sometimes they're like, oh my gosh, that was whiplash. But it does give you much more experience, much more rich experience, to be able to say early in your career that you worked on wine and professional services or technology and food or something like that. And a large firm is probably more challenging because you get put into a practice, but doesn't mean it doesn't happen, for sure. In terms of talent, obviously a large firm has a lot more people. So and a small firm has less people. Duh. And the more people you have, the more opportunity you have to have more diversity in your teams. And diversity in PR teams is a topic that is very current. We have not done a great job as an industry to have teams that represent all of the people that we're trying to reach, but it is absolutely a goal. And the Public Relations Council has been working on this and continues to work on this to help all of our agencies become more diverse. Depending on where you are in the country, that could mean very different things, right? If you're in San Francisco or Atlanta or New York or Texas or Minneapolis or St. Louis, who lives there might determine what your pool is. And then who's in the agency might determine where they pull from. And so particularly for, I know for member agencies at Public Relations Council, we are very focused on making sure that agencies of all sizes are choosing to recruit from lots of different places, regardless of what their strengths are and where they come from. But in general, if you have a bigger firm, you'll have more different kinds of people. With larger account teams at large agencies, how can you get noticed by leaders? Yes. So depending on how big if you have a $3 million account, if you're in a $3 million account, $4 million account, $5 million account, as an entry-level person, don't worry about the leaders, really. Worry about the people who you work with closest and making sure that you're doing what you need to do, right? And fulfilling your role. Every role is important on every team. Agencies do not hire people just to sit around. Agencies do not hire people to fill roles that don't matter. They don't. There's no wiggle room in agency math. Trust me. So the most important thing you can do on a team is fulfill your role and be important to the people you work most closely with. And raise your hand when, does anybody want to do this? Or if you see a need, you might bring it to your manager. Hey, I see this is a need. Could I, can I, I'd like to do this too, kind of stuff. But don't worry about the agency president if the agency president has 1,000 people on them, unless you're sitting next to them. Truly, don't worry about it. Worry most about being a strong contributor to the team that you're on. That gets noticed. And that may not get noticed so that you would see it, but it gets noticed in the operations meetings that's happening at the higher levels in terms of deployment. Those teams are probably meeting weekly at an operations level, talking about their teams, talking about deployment, talking about what's going well in the account, what's not, blah, 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 blah. And people come up in those meetings. So the most important thing you can do, particularly in a large team, in a large agency, is not worry about the leaders, worry about being important and doing your role and doing it well for the people right around you. Absolutely. And if your account team leader, who may not be the agency leader, right, but the agency leader on a big team is involved. If you're bringing in $1 million for trust me, the CEO knows. But they may not know who you are. But the account team leader, making sure that person knows who you are, that's key. So as well. So don't worry about the CEO. Worry about your own universe to start with, and then you will start to get noticed across people. You may not know it, but that's the most important thing. So you get noticed by being useful. You get noticed by being a great team leader, team member. You get noticed by doing great work that doesn't have to get doesn't have to get corrected over and over and over again. You get noticed for showing up, like if there are opportunities to do learning, or if there are opportunities to go to webinars, or whatever, or happy hours, whatever it is, show up. If you're there, you're going to have a much better opportunity for being seen by people you don't work with every day than you would if you don't show up to those things that might be extracurricular, if you know what I mean. Okay. The other piece is like working on a large account versus working on a small account. Big agencies have small accounts too, right? So in a big agency, you might have some projects that come in for extra revenue, or they're trying to court a client over time and move them from project to AOR, agency of record. So projects, the client size also may have impact in where you get opportunity and where you get face time. So it's not just the size of the agency, it's also the size of the client. So those are the questions I got regarding big agency versus small agency, and I hope that helps. All right, I'll see you in video 2.